Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the PodUp with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. PodUp, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care, and yes, the sun did come up, Gator fans.
Are you sure about that, QB? It looks
the sun
really
came up. It's a little cloudy, but the sun came up. We're going to start the show with JC here, by Pat Dooley, get Pat Dooley's comments and his thoughts on what happened up in Indianapolis last night. But this is why they called it madness. I mean, right now, I don't remember tournament from year to year, but this year, I feel like more upsets have happened than I can ever remember. And, it's been fun to watch.
It really has there, QB. I think it's really showed us that if you can just somehow survive the regular season, get a break in the tournament, do something like that in your conference tournament, you can find your way in here. And once you get in, there's a chance, right? You got life, and we've got now the second 15 seed to make the Sweet 16 since Florida Gulf Coast did it. And Oral Roberts is a school that I mean, the win they had against Ohio State, forget about last night. That game against Ohio State, I think, was the first real sign that we could be in for some really, really special stories here as far as underdogs are concerned. And then, of course, you had what happened with Illinois yesterday as a top seed. So that side of the bracket has certainly showed us that anything can happen. I kind of have the feeling that tonight's side of the bracket, we may not have as many upsets, but you just never know. I mean, Abilene Christian did it on this side of the bracket with Texas the other night. So Florida has to be really shaking their heads on how this one got away. I think they had control of this game. And just, it was kind of like watching your bank account over the days just slowly dwindle down to zero. And there's nothing you can do about it, because I don't know why Florida didn't quit moving and didn't quit cutting and didn't quit going to the basket and did quit going to the basket. I thought they had a great plan against Oral Roberts yesterday. And large part, most of the game looked like a much better team. But, you have to win over 40 minutes, not just 30. And when they hit that 4-point play on Florida, when Oral Roberts hit that 4-point play.
They hit two.
Yeah, right.
2 4-point plays.
And the first one, though, I think is what kind of got the ball rolling downhill, snowball effect on the Gators. And for some reason, it didn't seem like they were as sure as themselves as they had been earlier in the game, when they had guys cutting to the basket, slam dunking the ball, being very aggressive, being very active. And then all of a sudden, they just weren't. It's like somebody pulled the plug out of the wall, and they lost their charge. And I got to give Oral Roberts credit. I mean, this team is a story here now, along with a couple of others, that is the talk of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame we lost that game, but you got to give Oral Roberts credit. People can say we shouldn't have slowed it down. I heard Mike White's comments after the game. He felt like we were gassed. We needed to catch our breath, which here's the thing. It was so hard for us to defend Oral Roberts. They do such a great job of spacing the floor, and they have 2 NBA players. Number 3, I don't understand how he pronounces the last name, because it's spelled nothing like that. Right. And then number 0, the big 4 that can play outside, shot a ton of threes. Oral Roberts, it's crazy. That's the great thing about March Madness, is you go and you look at schools like Oregon State. Their coach was fired. He was going to be cleaning his office out as soon as they got back from the Pac-12 championship game. Somehow they made it there. They win it. Now they've won 2 games. So now they're going to have to keep him, even though they don't want him as their coach. You can't fire a guy who's going to the Sweet 16.
It's hard.
And so it's just March Madness it's hard to figure out, because
it almost makes me feel like the regular season is just kind of practice. I know you have to qualify for things. You have to get yourself in position for this tournament. But really, does anybody care about what happened during the regular season right now? I mean, if you're Florida and you're thinking what happened to this guy named Max Asmus, or whatever his name is, Abmas, but I think it's
But he's the
pronounced
leading
Asmus.
scorer in America, JC. It's not like we
Yeah,
didn't know
and
who
you
he
know
was.
what? Not one word was said about Max before this tournament started, okay? And nobody talked about him before the Ohio State game. So maybe he is the leading scorer in the country.
Yeah, they did.
Really? I never heard you mention his name once. In fact,
I did.
I'll tell you.
Why would I talk about somebody from Oral Roberts?
Well, because they possibly could have played Florida, and that's what happened.
Well,
but
anyway.
But think about QE, think about this. Oral Roberts. I would poll 10 people right now in your neighborhood, and they wouldn't know where that school is located. And the thing is that it's not a basketball powerhouse. We don't talk about them. Not even in the small school categories do we talk about Oral Roberts.
Do we talk about Abilene Christian?
No, but Florida didn't play Abilene Christian. I'm talking about Oral Roberts.
But Texas did, who was a 3 seed, who has 3 NBA starters that lost to Abilene Christian. My point is, that's the great thing about March Madness in sports. You never know what's going to happen. And yes, the regular season does matter because it's the only way you can get in the damn tournament.
Well, I was talking in a figurative sense, okay? It's kind of like in baseball, right? The College World Series, you got 8 teams in Omaha, and that's it. The rest of it, you can have it. It doesn't matter who wins the SEC tournament. I guess it does to the players, but does it really? No. And so you can say, Oregon State.
But the tournaments matter in this because that's how Abilene Christian and that's how Oral Roberts got in because they weren't even the top seeds in their tournament.
No, it means a lot for teams trying to get in who couldn't qualify during the season, and certainly the season matters, right? But it just seems like, as we will see here in this tournament, like we see in the college baseball and the softball world, that there's only one happy team at the end of the season, isn't there? In football, I think there's a bunch of happy teams that know they can't win a national title but could win a bowl game or really compete for a conference championship. That means a lot in football. In basketball and baseball, it's nice to have put on the wall, but your season is over when you lose, and there's only one winner, right? Everybody else is in second. So
this is a prime example of why they need to expand the football playoffs to 12 teams because you never know. Now, football is a little bit different than basketball because basketball, there's a lot of guys playing at Oral Roberts and Abilene Christians of the world that are going to be NBA players that you've never heard of. It's a little different in football, but still, you never know when a team like a Cincinnati or somebody like that gets it. Although I still think you need to have the Power 5 playoff and the Group of 5 playoff. But you don't know what's going to happen in sports. That's the bottom line.
Okay, well, sure. That's why we play them. But I agree with that. But I think that in basketball, okay, we have a year now like this year, kind of a strange year with COVID and so forth. Yeah, okay, the dogs are really howling right now. But typically, I mean, you do get the one shining moment and you get the big upset in the Final Four maybe or something like that. You get a Cinderella story here. But we got a bunch of Cinderellas showing up. Now, which Cinderella's going to get in? And right now, Oral Roberts, Abilene Christian, the Beavers.
Oregon State's a damn Cinderella.
You got the Loyola Ramblers. I mean, Loyola Ramblers just tore down Illinois yesterday. I mean, beat them by 13 points as an 8 going up there and just hammering Illinois, who was a team that looked really, really good in the Big Ten, I thought, and who I picked to win the thing. So, that just tells you about that. But West Virginia is another team. I think they had higher expectations than losing to Syracuse. And certainly, you had a story with Rutgers. They could have beaten Houston as a 10 seed over 2, had the ball, had the lead in the last.
They had the ball. They had the ball with the lead.
I know.
With like 20 seconds to go. And the guy dribbles it off his foot.
Yeah.
They go down and get a 3-point play. Game over.
Houston,
crazy.
Yeah. So Houston's a 2 seed. I think a very fortunate team, and they all move on now to the round of 16. But today, I think we're going to see. What do you think we're going to see a lot of more shining moments today, or is it going to be favorites?
Let's see here.
Long?
We're speaking with JC here on the Titan More Hotline. Got a couple of texts. We're going to be joined with Pat Dooley, get his thoughts on this game. Real quick, we got a text here from Daryl on the Titan MR text line. He says, "Good morning, guys. Yes, it was disappointing last night, but on a positive note, at least we made the tournament considering how this season went." I agree. We should have won the game, but we didn't. Give Oral Roberts a lot of credit. So let me see who's playing today, JC.
Well, we got LSU and Michigan. Big game there.
Well, LSU, I think LSU's going to beat Michigan. I really do.
We got Colorado, who shot the lights out against Florida State. Watch out for that high-scoring potential game there. We've got another SEC team here, Alabama, as a 2-seed, slight favorite over Maryland, one of the few remaining Big Ten teams. I still think of them as an ACC team, but they're not. They're a Big Ten team. Oregon, who did not have to play the other night, gets on the court for the first time against Iowa. And then I think you could see an interesting game with Ohio and Creighton, and Oklahoma and Gonzaga could be close for the first half. And then Abilene and UCLA. Abilene and UCLA are two teams nobody had in this thing. Not one person picked either one of these teams to advance to the first round. So here they are.
So there's only two really Cinderella stories playing today: Abilene Christian and Ohio. And some guy here picked Ohio to go to the Sweet 16.
Well, they could. They have to win today. Yeah. But Creighton's a fortunate team. Oh, we have Kansas and Southern Cal as well. That's the late game.
Well, the Pac-12 is not lost, and I think USC is going to beat Kansas. I forgot USC is the tallest team in America, and they have a lottery pick as well. I like the USC
why I have them in the Sweet 16 in my bracket. Yeah. So Southern Cal is a team nobody talks about. Really, nobody on this side of the country talks much about anybody in the Pac-12. There's reasons for that, but the Pac-12 is making a nice showing right now. Colorado, I think, surprised everybody with the way they shot the three and just hammered who they played. It escapes me who they played in the first round, but they killed them. So Florida State's going to have their hands full. The Seminoles I think they have to play better than they did in the first round to beat Colorado today. But
we got We got some Facebook Lives here. Coy wants to know.
Georgetown. They beat Georgetown.
Does Silver Q still have the basketball hoop next to the bar? Love that joint back in the 90s.
Okay.
Maybe they do. Chris says, we dominate the entire game next year. If everyone returns and we get Keontae back, we should be really able to make a run. First of all, Trey Mann's going pro. Trey Mann's going pro.
I don't know about Keontae. That's tough to predict right now.
John wants to know, does Oregon have an advantage by not playing in the first round? I don't know if they do or not.
I don't think they do. I think there'll be a little – I mean, you have that first game, except Colorado, where there may be a little nerves going. There may be some nervousness. You got to kind of work it out, get into the flow of things. Colorado seemed to have no problem doing that with Georgetown, but and Gonzaga with Norfolk. But I think that I think Oregon is going to have their hands full without a doubt, and probably lose today at Iowa.
Well, we'll see. It'll be a good game. Iowa can score. Got some really good player. It's a good
big
team,
tall guy, Luca
Garza, but they got some good guys that can shoot the ball around him. Mm-hmm. So Gators lose. On another note, Gators sweep Texas A&M.
How about baseball?
Softball sweeps Mississippi State. Gymnastics loses to your squad in the SEC. Alabama somehow won that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Alabama's got to play Maryland. Maryland's a team that will slow it down, and they get up in your face. They play nasty defense. So I think that's a cool matchup today to see how Alabama handles the Terps. Well,
they were sloppy. I thought Alabama played kind of sloppy against Iona, but they could afford to. They were. I think they were much more talented than Iona. But you have to give the Gales a lot of credit for sticking around in the second half. They actually had the lead at one point in that game against Alabama, but eventually I think the depth of Alabama took over. But Maryland is a different animal, and I think. This is a good matchup for Alabama. I think it's probably, they're probably looking at another, 5-6 point game one way or the other. So it'll be close. I agree. It'll be close.
All right. So JC, let's do this.
How about that baseball team for real quick though? I mean, I looked at the collegiate baseball rankings before this weekend, not to get too far off the subject of basketball. It was Arkansas 1, Mississippi State 2, Vanderbilt 3, LSU or somebody was 4 in the conference. I guess it was Ole Miss. Florida was 5. LSU was 6 or 7. It's incredible, this league, baseball. Speaking of baseball, and LSU, Mississippi State had a great series. You had A&M get swept by Florida, but Vanderbilt looked good. Ole Miss, these are good teams. Arkansas, Alabama had 2 good games. So I'm telling you, baseball is exciting in this part of the country.
Yeah, we got a couple of Facebook Lives brought to you by Mental Law here from the Crime Prevention Security System. John says teams. His Noles swept the Canes in baseball.
They did.
And they outscored them 34-2 in 3 games. I didn't even know that.
Florida State had a good week. Wouldn't you say they had a pretty good week?
Yeah. And then Dan gives us our gymnastics update. He said Peyton Richards fell on 3 events in gymnastics, plus no Trinity Thomas. They were resting for the national title.
Yeah, and that's
it meant nothing really.
Really, and it gets down to these NCAAs in gymnastics. I know this for a fact. You have to be one of the first 6 seeded teams to really have a realistic chance because of the way it's scored. As long as you're in that top 6, you're going to have a chance to win the national title. You know, it does look good to have a conference championship on your resume there, but really at the end of the season, nobody cares about winning that SEC.
They hang banners.
They do. They hang SEC championships. But if Florida wins the NCAA tournament and Alabama wins the SEC championship, who would you rather be? So I think the NCAA championship is what these teams obviously strive up for through the conference season. Win or lose, it's not as important as scores and seeding in the NCAA championships.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. March is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with JC here on the Titan MR Hotline, we'll be joined the second portion of the show by Pat Dooley. Get Dooley's thoughts on this Gator. Because I think I was looking through Twitter because, you know, obviously after you lose, you want to look on Twitter to see what people say. I think I'll ask Pat, but he said that Billy Donovan blew, I think, 2 or 3 11-point leads, either in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16 in his career.
I think it was three different times.
3 different times.
So yeah, I mean, listen, 11-point lead is not the safe. It's not. Doesn't mean you're going to win. It just means you're ahead. I think Florida, you know, it's hard to say how often you're going to have a chance to make the Sweet 16 playing a 15 seed. But Oral Roberts, I think, is certainly playing above their seeding, obviously, seeding level. And, you know, whatever they did in the Summit League or whatever league they're in, it's just not, it's just not relevant.
They didn't even win the Summit. How about that?
I know. It's not even relevant anymore. It doesn't mean anything to them. They're going to the Big Dance Sweet 16. That's a great accomplishment for such a small little outfit like Oral Roberts. But Florida had it there. I mean, they had the game. They would have had to play Arkansas next. And Florida has – I mean, Arkansas is going to give Oral Roberts a really good game. I think Oral Roberts will hang in there, but I got to like the way the Hogs are sitting right now.
We got some good Facebook Lives here, JC. John says, Hightower and Lugo shut Mississippi State out this weekend. The last time that happened was in 2009 when we had Stacey Nelson and Stephanie Brombacher.
Great pitching.
Chris says, there are still a lot of fire Mike White talk on the interwebs. Ridiculous. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Joseph says, Mike White knows the game of basketball. He just hasn't been able to develop the talent. I don't know if he hasn't been able to develop the talent. I mean, Trey Mann's a pretty good player, but he's going to be gone. Noah Locke shot the ball. I mean, here's the thing. We had a chance there at the end in the last few seconds with our best shooter from the three-point line with a wide open shot, and it rimmed out. We would have tied it up or taken the lead. I like the way
Appleby played too. I liked his aggressiveness.
Yeah, we still turned it over too much. It is what it is.
Yeah, they did turn it over.
I mean, Oral Roberts, they spaced us out, and I mean, their spacing and their shooting was ridiculous. Got a text here, JC. Happy Monday, gents. Well, much like in football, the Big Ten continues to disappoint, but I will say Loyola was way underseeded. I think the lack of non-conference games and tournaments led to an underseeding of mid-majors.
Yeah.
For all the fire Mike White crowd, just look at Shaka Smart as one example. He's been bounced from the first round 5 straight years with 4 of those losses at the hands of a 10 seed, 11 seed, a 12 seed, and a 14 seed. And he has 3 or 4 NBA players on his roster. So that's what I was going to bring up. You know, you hear about all these people, fire Mike White, this, that, and the other. Okay, who in the hell are you want to hire as your basketball coach?
And that's the thing. I think Florida fans are frustrated that some no-name at Oregon State can make it to the Sweet 16.
But JC, that guy was going to be at some JUCO next year coaching as an assistant.
I'm just using that as an example how some teams can have these guys who nobody's heard of or talked about much, do very well. And for as far as Baylor's concerned, Scott Drew has not been an overly successful coach, and here's Baylor. Looking really good right now. So that's just
here's
frustrating.
The thing about the Oregon State coach.
Well, you've already talked about the damn Oregon State.
His kids are knocking down shots. They're making a ton of shots right now. They're playing way above their heads. Speaking of Scott Drew, don't be surprised if he's not the next Indiana basketball coach.
Scott Drew?
Yes.
Well, I think a lot of it could depend on how far Baylor goes. You know, if they win the national title, Baylor is going to try to keep him for sure, and maybe he'll stay. But look at Kansas. Bill Self, big winning coach. Kansas, they could easily lose today, and I don't know if you're ready to fire Bill Self just because USC creeps up on him. So I mean, look, your team has to get to the tournament. You get to the tournament, then anything can happen, right? And that's what Florida was able to do. I think it's just frustrating for Florida fans to see schools like Creighton and Ohio and other teams still playing when they feel like they could beat any of those teams.
But Creighton is a very good basketball school. John says, how has a Power 5 program not grabbed up Porter Moser? I said yesterday, Porter Moser might be your next Indiana coach. I think it's between him and Scott Drew.
You got a lot of folks lined up in that Indiana resume line right there, QB. You got Scott Drew. You got two. Porter Moser. Okay. Those are the only two you got? Those are the only two? That's
the only two. I think one of those guys will be the next coach at Indiana.
All right. That's a good call. Good prediction. I'd like to see you be right.
If I'm not, I could care less.
What what upset do you have today? You got another big upset for us that you're
like I said,
these upsets?
There's only two. I got Ohio. I mean, I like Creighton. I love Creighton's guards. But
I think
that
really
Ohio,
a big upset, though?
I picked Ohio to go to the Sweet 16.
Okay, you did.
I'm going to pull for Abilene Christian just because. Just for the hell of it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, UCLA.
But there really are, in the other games, they're all toss-ups, in my opinion.
Well, except there's one game that you don't have as a toss-up, and that's the Gonzaga game.
No, that ain't a toss-up. That's blowout city.
No, that's not a toss-up. But, yeah, I think Iowa, Oregon will be good. Maryland, Alabama, all of them, I think will be really close games today, except for maybe one or two. But that LSU-Michigan game, the one at 7 o'clock tonight really has me intrigued. And then the Alabama game, we got to root for our conference, right? We're going to hope Alabama makes it. You could have potentially three teams. You could have three teams in the Sweet 16 with Alabama and LSU maybe joining Arkansas. So, Arkansas is sitting there right now waiting for Oral Roberts. So that's potentially three teams in the SEC that could make the Sweet 16. Let's at least hopefully get two in there.
Yeah, I'm just I'm really surprised today at today's show, and maybe it's we don't have a lot of negative Nellies on that listen to our show. I thought we were going to have all these. We need so and so as our coach. We need this guy as our coach.
They don't know who. I mean, right? Yeah. I mean, you can't say who do we need. You just want to get rid of somebody, maybe. Okay, great, but then what? What are you going to do then? You going to hire Shane Matthews, coach of Gators?
No, thank you.
Yeah. So it's a tough question. It really is. I don't know of anybody who's even interested in being the Florida Gators head coach. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there, but they already have a coach. He's not going anywhere. He's going to go recruit now. So,
here's what John says. John says there are no real good big names out there to hire if you fire Coach Mike White.
Right,
you also have to take into account there are a lot of these big name school coaches that would be good hires, may be involved in that FBI investigation. Okay, so first of all, the people that are involved with the FBI is Will Wade. Would you want to hire Will Wade over Mike White? No
chance. Zero chance.
Sean Miller, out in Arizona. Hell no. No.
You're not going to try.
And then the other one, who else is in the Bill Self is, I believe, a part of it. So, first of all, none of those coaches are going to come to Florida. You don't leave Arizona or Kansas to come to Florida.
And you're not going to hire Archie Miller out of Indiana, who won nothing. He was an abject failure there.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's extreme. We're extremely disappointed. But again, like that stat, I wish I had it in front of me. There's only like 9 coaches that have taken their teams to 4 straight NCAA tournaments, and Mike White is one of those guys. Now, like I said, the goal is to get into the tournament. Mark Wise comes on this show and other shows and says it is so hard to win one game in the NCAA tournament. Getting to the tournament is a huge, huge accomplishment. Winning one game is an accomplishment. And so, but anyway, it frustrates me. I'm frustrated just like everybody else that we lost.
Well, my advice would be to start thinking baseball and softball, Florida Gator fans.
Because basketball's over.
Right. So, get excited about that. Basketball is a tough year. Everything was very difficult. They'll be back next year. You never know who's going to show up and play here. The offseason can be very interesting for Florida. Hopefully they'll have some room to get some really exciting players in here. But as far as Gator fans right now, forget about the basketball. It's hard to lose like that, but think baseball and softball. That's what I would do.
Yeah, Dan says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. There's a lot, he lives out in Texas. There's a lot of fire shock of smart out there, which I've heard that too. I mean, Ryan just gave us the text that he hasn't made it out of the first round, losing to high seeds the last 4 years. So
right. Well, think about this. How would you feel if you're sitting in Knoxville, Tennessee right now, and you had the great Rick Barnes, and you were picked to win the conference, failed miserably at that, and then embarrassed yourself in the first round of the NCAA tournament? What would you think about sitting in Knoxville, Tennessee right now? What would you think about sitting in Columbia, South Carolina, where you don't compete in anything? What would you think about if you were sitting in, Starkville, Mississippi, with no chance of really winning anything? And how would you feel if you were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, knowing that you're underachieving and you'll probably get beat today by Michigan, which I'm hoping won't happen? So, it's just, this is how it is. I mean, It's not that bad.
Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law. John says Florida is one of 6 schools that have made the tournament the last 5 years and won the first round game. Okay. Well, then Joseph says recruiting class isn't looking very good for basketball right now. How the hell do we know?
Well, Joseph knows. Joseph just said it.
Here's my point. Okay. And nothing against this kid. I think he's a great kid. Never met him. But Scotty Lewis was a 5-star. He ain't good enough to play.
He did not have a good postseason. No, he did not.
No, he didn't have a good regular season, Jason.
He really didn't. I agree with you. I mean, he
has not been very good. So my point is, you can't look at the rankings, especially when they're coming to a school like Florida, and say, now you can look at a ranking of a team of guys going to Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina, or the Blue Bloods, but let's let the guys come in. I like Appleby a lot. He is a playmaker. He does turn it over.
It's fast.
But think about it. He played at Cleveland State. In basketball, you don't know. And there's so many transfers that come in. So, leave it there. The best player in the country lost last night, and he's going to be the first pick in the NBA draft, and he plays for Oklahoma State. We'll never see him play college again. Think about, Duke, North Carolina, Indiana, how upset their seasons were this year, how bad their fan base feels about, and I'm not trying to patronize Florida fans by saying, well, it could be worse somewhere else, because that's like one of the worst things you can always tell anybody who's upset and disappointed, because you don't care about all that other bad news. But it is tough. It is hard. And they had it, yes. But listen, maybe Oral Roberts is the great Cinderella story of the COVID year. Who knows? But Indiana, they just got rid of their coach, and their fan base is furious with what the program is looking like right now. At Duke, their coach literally quit this year. At North Carolina, Roy Williams has never, ever, ever, ever lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and he didn't even compete in that game. So, his team, they got worked by Wisconsin. Blown out. So, listen, the Blue Bloods taking it on the chin too, man. It's Georgetown was an embarrassment. That's a traditional basketball. Well, the only reason Georgetown got in is because they won their tournament. They were below 500 going into the
but their fan base got this big sugar high after that, and then came back crashing down to earth. As the Buffaloes ran right through them. It's just hard to always be happy when it comes to basketball. That's the thing I would say. And there are a lot of schools right now that are feeling a lot worse than Florida, even though the Gator fans took a tough one last night.
Yep, no doubt. Well, JC, good stuff, my man. We're going to take our first time out of the program, get to Dooley, and we'll see you on Monday.
You bet. Wednesday.
That's right. Hey, folks, let me tell you about our new sponsor, G-Tech Clean.
G-Tech Clean is your complete germ protection. It's EPA approved to kill COVID-19 and kills 99.9% of all germs and viruses, black mold, and also deodorizes. It's the safest, affordable way to clean and sanitize your business, no matter if it's a gym, school, retail store, or office. Use it in your home, anywhere from the bathroom to the kids' room. It's formulated to provide 24/7 protection and is over 30 times more durable than any other cleaners. Try G-Tech at home as well.
I use G-Tech Clean to keep my PodUp studio free of any germs and viruses that are related to COVID-19, and so should you. Going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we'll be joined by good old Pat Dooley, talking a little Gator basketball. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Harder Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Dave & Buster's, Nike, Sushi Hana, Uzzaline Day Spa, and coming June of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined. I always want to say the Gainesville Sun's Pat Dooley, but he's no longer at the Gainesville Sun. He is a retired journalist, taking it easy, sitting on the beach, all that good stuff. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing my podcast the other day, and I went, "I'm Pat Dooley of the Gainesville Sun," and I had, whoa, no, I'm not. It's still, I guess theoretically, I still am with the Gainesville Sun because they're still paying me. So.
Well, there you go. Pat, let's talk about obviously what happened yesterday. I mean, I think this tournament's been outstanding. It's been a lot of fun to watch, a lot of upsets. That's what is great about March Madness. Gators have 11-point lead. I guess about 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game. And, people thought we slowed it down. I saw where Mike White said he thought our team was exhausted, trying to catch their breath. I thought Oral Roberts was outstanding in their spacing. They spaced us out, and they got 2 players that will be playing in the NBA, in my opinion. But just your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, look, I get why people are being critical of Mike for slowing it down, and I also get why he slowed it down. And anytime you make a decision like that, it's going to be second guessed. And that's what being a head coach is all about. If you make tough decisions and you decide to go one way and it doesn't work out, it looks bad. But they lost the game because of 20 turnovers. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's the team they have been all year. They don't have a point guard. Appleby is, I give Tyree Appleby so much credit. Coming out there was head bandaged up. He couldn't see because there was so much blood pouring down the game two games ago. And he made some unbelievable plays and was fearless, but he can't play the point. He just makes turnovers. I think he only had 3 last night, but it felt like more. And to be honest with you, Trey Mann is a tremendous player. And I think he's a good example of how Mike has shown that he can build a player up and develop a player, because Trey Mann was nothing last year, but he's not a point guard, and that's where, I think has been part of their problem. Guys handling the ball, Castleton had 5 turnovers last night. That's ridiculous. But I will say this, I was sitting in both New Orleans and Phoenix in consecutive years, and Billy Donovan had 11-point leads in the second half and lost the game. So it's not like this never happens. We see it happen more often in the tournament because it gets a little crazy, and it's still, look, your breakfast and your dinner aren't going to taste very good today if you're a Gator fan. That's just the way it is, and I get it. When you lose a game in the tournament, it is so abrupt. It's almost like somebody put the brakes on and you went through the windshield. And I know people are upset, and I understand why they're upset. But, Mike White's not going anywhere. So you can either embrace him or just don't go to the games.
Yeah, John says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, Asmus or ABMAS. I can't never figure out why
that is the weirdest name yet. Yeah,
weirdest pronunciation. Says will be like C.J. McCollum, who plays for the Blazers now, who played at Lehigh. He's going to be an NBA player. I mean, that dude can score the basketball.
You know who he reminded me of a little bit was Tay Dufay, in that he would play without a conscience. He would take it from 40. He didn't have a problem. Obviously, he could drive better. He's quicker than Teddy was, but that's what I saw when I saw him taking that first 35-footer, and I'm like, well, take those all day. One or two might go in, and that's where Florida got up on them. They kept shooting threes, and Florida would get the rebound. They were killing them on the boards, and everything was going great. And certainly the way Trey Mann played early, they tried to take it away from him, and they did a good job later in the game. But I mean, it's a hard loss. I mean, you lose to a 15, you get a break in the bracket, and that happened one other time for Florida. They were supposed to play Missouri was the 2 seed. This was in Omaha, and Norfolk State beat Missouri, and the crowd was going nuts because they were all rooting for the underdog. And then 2 days later, that team showed up hungover. I mean, they had partied for 2 days, and Florida destroyed them. I mean, it wasn't even a contest, and that's what you like to do. But in this case, what did Oral Roberts? First of all, they aren't going partying anyway. And second of all, they couldn't go partying in the bubble. So, they just concentrated on basketball. I like watching that team play. They're fun. They'll give Arkansas fits.
Yeah, they've already played them once this year, and it was like a 10-point game in Arkansas. But, yeah, they got two guys that are going to play in the NBA. 3 and 0 will definitely be NBA guys. Pat, as you mentioned, people still think Mike White should be fired. I don't. I think he's a good coach. I think, it's easy to second guess decisions, but I think when you lose your best player, who was the preseason SEC player of the year, and you get to the tournament and you win a game, it's been a successful year. It's disappointing because, as you mentioned, we played a 15 seed, but who knows? Arkansas could lose to Oral Roberts for all we know in the next couple of days whenever they play. But my point is, who do people want to hire as their basketball coach? I don't know who's out there.
All the people that they were clamoring to hire last time have all been fired. So at their respective jobs, Archie Miller was, you got to go get Archie Miller. Yeah, he didn't get to the tournament in 4 years. He got fired. Greg Marshall fired for abusing players. Those are the kind of names you heard out there. Now people bring up Rick Pitino, and I'm like, Florida is not hiring Rick Pitino. No. They don't believe in that kind of coaching, I guess is the best way to put it. And Rick Pitino's not going anywhere anyway. So, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, look, I pointed this out. I just finished my Back Nine column, which will be up on WRUF.com any second now. And I pointed out this. Everybody's saying Florida is in its 6th year. They are not developing the way I would like to see this program develop. And I was like, in Billy's 6th year, he lost to Creighton in the first round. Okay? I mean, this is what happens in the tournament. You have, in his 8th year, by the way, he lost to Manhattan. And have you heard of Manhattan since then? They literally just went away after that win. So, I mean, these things happen in the tournament. This is what makes the tournament great. All the upsets. I didn't know if we'd get that this year. I thought we might get all chalk and not have people burn in their brackets, and stuff like that. But no, we've had it probably even more than normal. I mean, to me, it's just been crazy. You don't know who's going to win. And I do think that, not having big crowds and, always being in this bubble, I think players are kind of reacting to it differently. But look, we're still going to see Gonzaga and Baylor in the final. It really doesn't matter.
The Eye of the Gator here on Facebook Live says comparing Billy to Mike White is a losing proposition, Pat. But it's not. I mean, Billy had some good teams, had some really good players. But think about it. The so-called experts out there say when you get into the March Madness, you win with NBA talent. I agree with that, but I also disagree because we saw what Loyola did to a bunch of NBA guys for Illinois. But in the big scheme of things, it's, usually that's the case. Billy had some NBA talent. Mike, I think, has one NBA player in Trey Mann. I don't think anybody else will sniff the NBA. But Florida, I say this all the time and people get upset with me, but I'm just trying to be honest. Florida is not a basketball school, never will be. What Billy Donovan did for the Florida basketball program will hardly ever happen again in our lifetime. You agree with that or disagree with it?
Well, but you're hitting the point. The point is they want it to happen again. They need it to happen again. They want to feel that euphoria that they felt in some of Billy's teams, certainly not all of them. That he went there. And again, I'm not comparing Billy Donovan to Mike White. I'm giving you statistical evidence of what happened. Billy Donovan, in my mind, is the best coach Florida's ever had in any sport because of what he was able to do for 19 years. And again, he decided to get out of it mainly because he saw what was coming down the pike, which is a bunch of cheaters, which we're dealing with all the time, and some of them they even let in the tournament and they're still playing. But I don't want to compare Billy Donovan and Mike White, but that's what everybody wants, that feeling that Billy Donovan brought them, and they forget those 5 years where they only won 2 games or 3 games in the NCAA tournament. They forget that the 2 years after. I'll give you an example. The year after the 04s won the second championship, they had 3 NBA players on that team and couldn't get into the tournament in Space, Kalathis, and Parsons, so it takes sometimes you could do what Kentucky's doing. And I don't know that Florida even could do that. I don't know that Florida can get all those one and done guys and you could do that. But if you could do that, would you really want to do that? Would you want to have years where you just don't get in the tournament? Would you want to have years where you're frustrated? But even then, you can't do that. Florida's not as you said, it's not a basketball school. It is a all sports school, but it's a football school and football rules. We see it every day with everything we post. And on whether I was at the Gainesville Sun or here at WRUF, everything we post. Football rules. It's 100%. It's not even close. I'd love to see this become more of a baseball town, more of a softball town, more of a gymnastics town, and they support all those things. But I've said this all along. Florida fans love their Gator basketball, but they're not passionate about it. They can dismiss it, and 2 days from now they'll have forgotten that those games even took place.
Yeah, we got a text on the Titan Mark text line. I don't know who it's from. It just says, here's a perfect stat that shows how lost Mike White is. Up by 11, Gators get only 2 field goals in the last 9:48 of the game. Hey, it happens.
It does.
Here's another text.
And that's not good. It's
not good at all.
They should have found a better way to do it. And look, I'm not saying he didn't make mistakes in that game or that he didn't did a great job of coaching in the last 11 minutes. I'm not by any means saying that. But a lot of coaches lose leads. I just mentioned Billy losing 2 in a row in Elite 8 games. It happens. But what you have to do if you're Mike White is you've got to learn from what didn't go right. And you've got to think about coaching changes and think about getting people in there that maybe are a little more veteran. You've got to think about getting a point guard. You have no point guard. That's part of the problem with this team. And the bottom line is, I know that Keontae being with the situation that had to him was tragic, and but he wasn't their point guard. They were going to go into the season without a point guard. They thought they had 3. They had none. They had nobody that can dribble the ball. They had guys dribbling the ball out of bounds sometimes. So they need to go in the transfer portal and get somebody that is a skilled ball player. If you could have inserted Andrew Nemhard into that game with 11 minutes to go, that game was over because he would not have had all those turnovers and he would have slowed things down to a point the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, we got another text here. This comes from Jack. Jack says, if Mike White had to do it again, he would not slow down the pace in the second half. Do you agree with my assessment? I mean, yeah. I mean, but that's the great thing about sports. If we slow it down and still win the game, nobody's complaining. Exactly. And he thought his team was gassed. I get it. Yeah. I mean, as a player and coach at the high school level, there's times when you lose a game or make a bad decision, you think about it. Should I have done this or should I have done that? That's what's great about sports. We're speaking with Pat Dooley here on the Titan MR hotline at Chris Doran Mortgage.
Excuse me while I let this dog out before I.
All right. At Chris Doran Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doran Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. You can follow Pat on Twitter at Pat_Dooley. All right, Pat. So, Gators heartbreaking loss. Still, are you excited to watch the tournament today?
Not as. I mean, I know that the day after the tournament, when your team gets eliminated, you're kind of like I couldn't watch the games last night. I wish I had because Oregon State getting that win. But I was like, I'm ready to go to bed. Get up and start a new day. But the tournament has been great. It's been better than I could even hope it would be. I think the announcers have been really good too. I will say that usually I don't watch Florida games with the sound up because I don't want to hear – because I know they're going to say things that aren't true, A, and B, things that I already knew. And they get my problem with – and it happens with basketball more than any other sport. These basketball announcers get off on tangents that have nothing to do with the game. Meanwhile, teams are scoring up and down the end, and they get talking about, I've got this thing going, and, I don't know, my son today brought home a new a G.I. Joe, and I didn't even know they still were making – and I'm like, was that a foul or not? I mean, it drives me nuts. But these guys are professionals, and they did a really good job.
Yeah, Lisa Byington. I think it's Byington's her name.
Lisa Byington was really good. Yeah,
I thought she was outstanding. I listened to a lot of the games that she commentated on, and I think she's a Northwestern former athlete there at Northwestern, and she's done some stuff for the Big Ten Network. But she was outstanding. We got a Facebook Live here from Eye of the Gator. He says, if U.S. was gassed at the moment in the game, what does that say about our strength and conditioning? Oral Roberts has no depth, and they were not gassed. Oral Roberts, that's the pace they play at week in and week out. And if you've ever played basketball and you're playing against a team that is a run and gun, they will wear you out. So it has nothing to do with strength and conditioning.
No, I think that they just felt like, and again, they weren't going to get Trey Mann out of the game because of what he was able to do. And they kind of shortened the bench. And as a result, I think decided to do that. Look, and I don't think the strength and conditioning is a problem with this team. Although I will say this, guys, think about this. This team shut it down for 3 weeks. Then they shut it down for 2 more. And maybe at the end of the day, there was a little of a conditioning issue because they had to take all these pauses. And then they go to, obviously, when you lose, what day did they lose on? Wednesday? No, they lost on Friday in the SEC tournament and didn't play again for a week. Sometimes that'll affect the way it works. So, and then you're playing 2 games in 3 days. So, I mean, I get it. I get that's going to be pointed to, but that's what he felt, and he knows his team better than anybody. So I understand why he did it, but when it doesn't work, you're like, thanks for nothing.
Yep. So Pat, got anybody left in the Final Four in your bracket?
Oh, my bracket is so dead. I wanted to go chalk at the top and a bunch of upsets at the bottom, but the problem with the bottom of the bracket when you're trying to come up with those major upsets is there's no way to get you can't pick all upsets because that's not going to happen. So you've got to pick the ones and that's almost impossible. So no, my bracket is I looked at it going into yesterday, and I was 2 millionth in the country, which I don't think I'm winning anything for that.
Yeah, I have 3 teams left to go to the Final Four. I had obviously I had Illinois playing Gonzaga. I don't think anybody's going to beat Gonzaga. I've said that all year long.
Yeah, they're really good.
They are so good. It's scary good. Speaking of that, being that good, Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase, $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your convenience. The reason I say, speaking of that, back in 1969, on this day in sports, the 31st NCAA basketball championship, UCLA beat Purdue 92-72 for the Bruins three-peat, where Lou Alcindor was the most outstanding player for the 3rd consecutive year. How many straight consecutive titles did UCLA win at one time?
I think 9. I believe it was 9.
Wow.
8 or 9. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And it was, to be honest with you, nobody was getting excited about it because, it was a big deal. I remember the game where their 88-game winning streak got snapped, and Austin Carr and Notre Dame beat them in Notre Dame, and that was a big deal. But again, that was when you only had one game a weekend to watch. So yeah, we all watched that game, and then you kind of got into it. But the tournament was not anywhere near the level it has become. So, but yeah, he just kept getting all the best players, and some people think he did it. There was a bag man. Some people just think he was a great coach, and it doesn't really matter now.
Well, Pat, let everybody know how they can listen to your podcast, and obviously you're on daily with Cardozo on the tailgate.
Yeah, our podcast will be in there today. We've got. I'm changing up on everybody. I don't want to talk. I'm going to talk a little basketball, but we're going mostly football with Don Gaffney, former Florida quarterback, who's a good friend of mine. Look forward to having him on. And then Mike Bianchi will also join us. And he wrote a nice column about Mike White before the game. And I'm wondering if he feels any different after the game. And then Friday, Danny Werfel's supposed to join us. Hopefully he's feeling better. He was a little under the weather last week. And so we look forward to that. Also, you can listen to now we have no podcast or no radio show today because we're carrying the NCAA tournament. So today we're not on. Then we'll be back Tuesday, 4 to 6 every day. And, of course, a lot of times because Jeff has to do the radio play-by-play, I have to pull in these weirdos like Robbie and Zach. And maybe one day I'll pull you in there and you can be on the radio with me.
Let's do it. All right, Dools. Thanks for joining us, my man. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
Yep, Pat Dooley joins us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Going to take our second time out of the program. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Monday edition.
Hey, Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. PodUp with Matthews in the morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Route Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TV Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. I want to thank JC and Pat Dooley for joining the program. Before we go, we got a Facebook Live trivia question. Coy says, which Florida QB spent the most time in the NFL? I believe that's myself, Coy. Not 100, either me or Rex, but I think it was me. So anyway, the sun did come up, and Gator basketball is over, but get ready for spring sports. We're going to make a run at some titles. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe out there, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.